Well, we're going to be looking at the Chaos physics engine in Unreal Engine 5. So Chaos is a system that allows, it's basically a new physics engine that's going to be the main physics engine in the future of Unreal. And it's mainly kind of showcased at the moment for destructible. So destructible is kind of like if you think of big buildings and you shoot a cannon into it, that it can be destroyed at a certain impact point and all of the different pieces will fall apart, and it's not completely scripted. So it's not like you hit the building and the same bit will always fall off. The building will be made up of loads of chunks and you effectively activate them to smash and fall apart and stuff. So we're going to be having a look at that today. It's something that I need to research for my own reasons as well. And I think it does fit into the idea. I'd like to do a little concept where you can break through a wall and have it so you've got to shoot your way through a wall. I thought of a few different scenarios we could do with this to make it interesting. You could have it like a mini game like Fall Guys. You know, the one we got to run and jump through a wall to see if it breaks. You could do that, but it's going to be physics based instead, where it'll like smash into pieces. And then another one I thought similar to Fall Guys again is the one where you're all on one floor and bits of the floor keep falling away and you need to stay up. We'd have that, but we could have like bricks falling from the top that hit the floor and then the floor smashes. So it leaves realistic holes in the floor. Two ways to kind of play around with this chaos mechanic. So that's what we're going to be having a look at today. But I'm new to it. I've not implemented it before, but I've been researching it a little bit before the stream. What is this all related to earlier, dearest Spacey? It sounds like you got a good resolution in the end, right? All right, so first things first. It might go a bit janky. Because I'm in Unreal Engine 5. I've just added Unreal Engine 5. Oh yeah, look how slow it is going. Well, that's a shame. Can we just go to medium? Will that help? That seems to help a bit. Although, has that turned off all the lighting? Right now, it doesn't matter. 3 officers. Oh. Okay. That sounds reasonable, Spacey. Whenever we need to make a phone call a moment, she's like, do you want to do it for me instead? She also has the anxiety of like not being able to understand the people because they're British with funny accents. Oh yeah, you mentioned this before. I don't use it enough to tell you. So click and drag. No, you can't. You can shift click and like control. And then I could just click this, then I could hold control, then I could hold shift and control, and I might even be able to do it like this: control, then hold shift. Yeah, to do selective stuff. Right? Did the old one let you do it then? Is it? Yeah, that is a bit of a pain if so. Okay. Anyway, right. So we're in Unreal. We're going to get started with how to do this. So essentially, how this works is in Editor, you can just take any shape or any kind of mesh, a combination of meshes even, and you can make something called a geometry collection out of them. So first off, let's just go in and add a cube. So let's make this cube like this. Now I'm not too sure what happens if we scale it. I can imagine it's not going to respond so well. So I tell you what, shall we make our own one in Blender quickly? Because we're just gonna, like, the classic here is like pillars. So we're just going to do something relatively straightforward. Let's get rid of this. I'm going to Shift A. Everyone loves when Dan goes into Blender in a stream without planning it. Cylinder. I guess we got 32 at the moment. For now, let's just make this 16. Have it a little bit less solid. 16 still not too many. I think that's totally fine. And then for the height of it, so the radius this is. Hello, Uno Maestro. Good day to you. No castles today. I know. What even is this if we're not doing castles? What's the point of existing if we're not doing castles? Okay, so we're making ourselves a pillar. Shall we make it look a bit more like a pillar? Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it look a little bit nicer. Oh, that was a fun little tool that I don't know what to do with. Alt. That's the one I'm looking for. Okay, so we're going to edit mode. We're going to go shift. Oh no. Shift R. Control R maybe. Yeah, that's the boy. Okay, we're going to do this. And then we're going to scale them on the Z to get them like this. And then we're going to take both of these and scale them in on everything but the Z. Like this, I guess. And part of me feels we should probably do this first. It doesn't need to be much. We're not going to do much detail with this. It's just more of a case of making sure that we have something that looks a little more interesting, you know? Okay, that looks like a pillar to me, right? If we want, we could push these faces in a little bit, but I think for now, we're just going to leave it as it is. It looks good enough to me. As Rob would say, good enough for me. Good old celebrity Rob, X-Wing's husband. Okay, we'll give these materials as well. So let's go ahead and do this bit quickly. Materials, we want to make a new one. This is going to be our like pillar base. We'll give this a little bit of a... Oh, what sort of pillars are these going to be? Like stony colour? Let's make it kind of stony colour then. A bit lighter. Yeah, that could do there. Okay, and then oh, we need to apply it. Oh my gosh, it's a Spacey subscription. No, it's not Alicia's birthday. I don't know how to tell you this. You've been confused for many moons now. Let's apply a sign like that. Yeah. And then we're gonna... Is there like a control I to invert? Oh, hold on. I didn't select the top and bottom. It's all right. We can manually deselect them. Oh, what the... Yeah, there we go. There we go. Manually deselect them. And we need to make a new one for this. Add. This is just going to be pillar shaft. Come on, not often we get to use the word shaft. And we'll give this a slight golden tint, shall we? Like sandy yellow. There you go, that'll do. Assign. Great, so if we go to this view, we should see our colors now. I really don't like the colors, but I will accept. I'll accept the consequences of my choices. No, we can just change it to something a little... That color's a bit better for me. Okay, great. So I'm going to save this as, let's just save this as a pillar blend for now. Okay, and then we're going to export this bad boy out as well as an F to the B to the X. And we're going to call this pillar FBX. We're going to jump to that folder. Oh, were you getting alert noises there? Oh, the alert noise didn't go off. I've muted the audio because I'm listening to music. I'm so sorry. I apologize, Spacey. Oh, hello there, Hexadonut. In my endo, thank you very much. Open that file location. We'll go to pillar.fbx. We're going to drag this into our... So we've got a geometry folder. Oh, look at this. All right, let's just drag it into there, shall we? Pow. Import. I hope the size of it is relevant. Let's just completely Control S all of this. We'll open up the old... Oh, is it? Oh no, that's the materials it's brought in. Crikey. Shader compilation. Here we go. Okay, that's fine. It's a bit big, but we can live with that. All right, so classic example. All the examples use pillars. We're going to go ahead and do something with this. So let's go ahead and save our project because we might get some crashes. Let's also, I mean, do we need all this stairs and that? I don't think we do. Let's get rid of this. Okay? We are going to get our pillars. Okay. Excellent. So we could do it to have some fun. We could also make some quick slabs out of this. It kind of needs to be the same size, doesn't it? I think at the moment we're on does anybody tell me how big the selection is? If I remember this, wasn't it 1 by 2? Yeah, I think these units are 1, right? So we could do like a 1 by 5 sort of rectangle as well. Let's just quickly do that. And then we can give it the material in editor instead of doing that. Let's save whatever changes I've done to that. Okay, so this, first off, we're going to G control, take it up 1. Then we're going to scale it on the Z just by 50%. Then we're going to G and move it down on the Z by 0.25. No. Minus 5.5. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, like this, but we then want to make it a bit wider. So we want to scale it out on the X by 2.5. I tell you what, let's just go 3, shall we? There we go, 3 each side. Sounds good to me. How's that looking that way? Okay, good. We kind of wanted it like a slab like that. It's a bit tall, but we're going to go with it. All right, this export. I'm going to save this because there's 0 effort went into it. We want to export this as a pillar slab. We're going to call this just so we kind of know that it lives with it. Okay, export that. Kapow, magic. Sorry, I'm a bit behind on the old chatteroony. Now I resign myself to singing my own alerts. Yes, yes, do that. Do that. Don't worry, it's happened to me more than thrice. What, as in you've done it on your stream, or I've had the audio off on your alerts 3 times? If so, I'm a sinner. AirPods Max headphones. Tell me I'm stupid. Do you already have wireless headphones? Hexadonut. How much are they as well? That'd be an interesting contribution to the discussion. All right, we're going to bring in this slab as well. Pow. Slab comes in, import. And then we're going to give this slab a different material. I think we're going to get rid of this material here. Yeah, replace the references with pillar shaft. Okay, do that. Save, happy, done. Okay, so this means that we could then chuck on some of these slabs on top of here. That's basically what I was looking to achieve, so that we could make a structure. It's a bit big, but it'll do. It'll do. I think it's the right size really for what we're doing. Great, so we can make a couple of those. It'd look fine actually. They're $500. You have the Sony ones, but the sound's great, but the user experience is pretty lame between devices. Change all the settings via an app. Yes, that is one thing I can relate to, is having a pair of Bluetooth headphones that you can't just like disconnect from one device and then go onto your other one. I had to do on my. I've got cheap ones that only cost 35 quid, but they're great. But yeah, on certain Bluetooth devices, it doesn't just easily let you pick it up. I have to like remove the device on the PC and then re-add it. To the extent that I now just use them with my phone. They were fine with one laptop, but with one of the PCs it didn't. That's the spirit, Hefu. Smash the sub button like Dan is smashing those buildings. Thank you, Hefu. My text-to-speech is muted because I'm listening to some music today. So apologies. I do appreciate the sub message. I did enjoy it. Set them up to my phone only and deal with. Yeah. Are AirPods the only solution? I guess if you use a lot of Apple products, then maybe it is. Thank you, Hef. Thank you. All right, we're looking at chaos, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple of things that you need to know about this. So I've just made myself 2 assets. I've made this pillar and I've made this slab that goes on top of the pillar. All I've done is just made these in Blender. Nothing fancy about them. So things that you need enabled, you need to either be in Unreal Engine 5 or if you're in Unreal Engine 4.26 or 27, you need to have a special version of it which I didn't know. So let me come and show you if anyone's interested in learning about it. Oh, I clicked on the Learn tab because I said Learn. I didn't mean to do that. Right, if we go into here, when you install a new version of the engine, so if I go ahead and press where's the plus button? Oh, here. If I plus this, you can see here the versions. If you go right to the bottom, you got these little chaos versions. So you can download them like that. Otherwise, you're going to have to download the source and build from source if you're in an older version than that. But yeah, I recommend doing this. Or just use Unreal Engine 5 as I am doing now. So that gets it set up for you, or gives you an editor that has it built into it at least. And then the other thing you'll need to make sure, most of these are enabled by default. If you just type in chaos in here, there's a bunch of tools that you need to enable. Most of them are on already, but as you can see here, a couple of them aren't. So I'm going to turn on chaos caching. That's something we might look at today. Yeah, it's saying it's in beta version. That's fine. We're not going to be doing the vehicles, but I'm going to enable it anyway. So all of those are on. And then the other thing you want to enable is field. So field system, which is also part of chaos. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, hopefully, if we get time to get onto it. So let's go ahead and restart this now. So yeah, the current project I'm working on in work are building the game in Unreal Engine 5. So I'm getting a chance to actually, well, try and develop in a professional environment in it. However, it is early stages in the project, so it's not like a massive code base yet, fully fledged, and we are encountering problems and having to figure them out and deal with them as they go along. But yeah, it's a good experience for sure. I think beats have the most functionality, but no noise cancellation. I personally don't feel I need much noise cancellation. I already feel that I cannot hear the door if I've got my headphones in most of the time. But the problem is it's tying you to Apple products, Hexa. If you're happy with that expensive commitment for good user experience, then if you got the money for it, then go for it. That's what I'd say. But if you're not tied to it and you think you might want to use non-Apple devices too, then yeah, I'd look into reviews of ones that have good like device-to-device accessibility and switchability and all that jazz. Okay, so we've got our plugin enabled. We're using a version of the engine that has chaos as part of it, and you'll know if you have because you'll have this icon appear. If you're using the old interface, you'll just look in the same spot where you can choose the landscaping tools and all that. You should have this extra one, which is called fracture editing mode. Excellent. Okay, so how this works then is, one of the main selling points of this is that it is meant to be, you can fracture up any kind of mesh or combination of meshes into a geometry collection, and you do this in editor rather than doing it in your 3D authoring software. So instead of going into 3D Max or Maya or whatever, I'm not pretending I talk this lingo. Instead of doing that, you can literally just select things and say, chunk this up for me, please. So that is one of the perks that they're trying to take away, the need to jump from program to program. However, I'm interested to see whether you can still have that ultimate control if you wanted to and use the chaos destruction system in that way. I'm not 100% how that is done. We're not going to be looking into that, but that's something I would be curious in finding out though. Hexa, I can understand where you're coming from with that. That's a shame. I was tempted to pick up the Sony's, if I'm honest with you, but to be honest, I couldn't justify the cost for what I got now. That chunky chunker. Hello there, weird lol. Hello, Poker Badly as well. Nice to see you. Bizarrio, good day to you. Oh, we got loads of lovely people in here today. Very nice to see some lovely faces. Okay, so let's see how this works. So first step then is going to be splitting our mesh into chunkers. So we're going to do that. Let's just start with one thing, shall we? Let's move this. I mean, we can leave that on top for now. It doesn't particularly matter. So I select this one thing. I then go into the fracture tool. We get this new UI thing over here. It looks a bit weird, the setup of it, but we're just going to leave it as it is in default positions. And then we basically need to say, hey, we want to make a new geometry collection out of this. So you press this generate button up here, the new, and it says, okay, where do you want this to live? I've made myself a folder called Geometry Collections. So I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to call it, I'll give it maybe GC pillar single or something like that. I'm going to call it for now. So I'm going to create that. And keep in mind, I could have selected both of these and done the same step, and it would have made a geometry collection out of both of them too. We're doing it just the one of them on purpose right now. So let's go ahead, create this. All right, so now we have some weird texture. Let's let this do its compiling of shaders. 94, 88 is getting there. Don't you worry. Dante, hello. Hello. So Dante, I know you asked about the feedback streams. So the feedback streams, we're currently low on entries at the moment, and I'm trying to decide the best way for me to continue doing those streams. I think we'll do one that finishes off the list, but I'll have to review then whether or not I want to keep it as a regular slot, because there wasn't enough interest at the moment, I feel, to make it a weekly thing. But yeah, I'll need to review that. But I will, whatever's on the queue, I will get through those at some point. I need to once we've got 3 in the queue, I'll do a stream on it. Time before the 20th. But if there's enough by next Monday, yeah, do you have a deadline coming up, do you? Yeah, give me a poke if you would. Give me a poke via Twitter or Discord, whatever you fancy, this weekend to remind me. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Hef. To be honest, if I did it every Monday, I think it would do better. Before I was iterating it with the interviews, wasn't I? But we kind of come to, I think the interviews have come to an end for this chapter at least. I enjoyed doing them. They were really good, by the way. Everyone I reached out to who said, yes, I've done. There's a few who didn't reply, but like I've mentioned before, I don't want to seem desperate and beg people to do it because they're not above me. I'm not going to beg people. It's just a nice thing to do, right? So, yeah, I might try and do some different base ones. Not focusing on Twitch streamers who do game dev. I'll have a think about something in future. But for now, the Mondays are focusing on just another mechanic Monday, which is where we just try and implement some form of game mechanic. And this stream, maybe next week as well, I'm not sure. We'll be looking at like destructive stuff, like breakable walls and buildings and that could fall down. But yeah, okay. And also remember, Dante, you can post on my Discord. Maybe, I'm not promising it, but there might be some people who would be willing to check it out as well. I'm noticing that this is a little bit, this pillar material, it kind of bugs out. Okay, yeah, when you select it, like that. I don't know why it bugs out like that. Selected geometry material. Yeah, I'm wondering why that is. Anyway, okay, let's not worry too much about that. So we've just pressed new, and we're now making a new geometry collection. So the first thing we need to do is to fracture this. So if I click on one of these fracture styles, it'll say, we're going to break it up in this pattern. So it looks like a rectangle, but it's just going to cut through the mesh in following those lines. So it's not going to turn it into a rectangle. There are different patterns you can do. That doesn't seem to work with this style. Neither does this one. Maybe you have to move these things around. I'm not 100%. You can do like a brick one as well. The brick one's quite a nice idea if you think about it. If you want to break up like a wall and make them act like bricks, that could be an option. And then we just have an option to slice in some way or other. There may be settings, yeah, but to actually play around with these to see how it works. But for us, we're just going to go for uniform for now. And the type of options we have in here, if I just bring this down a little, you can see this is where you can choose how many of these you want. I think so. If I went to 30, then you can see that we're getting more of these. I could take it really high and you'll see lots of little pieces instead. I don't recommend doing this, and I'll explain why in a moment. What we're going to be adding right now is our base chunkage, if you will. So this is like the big chunks, and then we can make those big chunks split into smaller chunks again. So let's have a little look how to do that. So first one, should we make this split into 10? How does that look? It's quite chunky, but I'm down with that. So let's do this as our base. So we press fracture, kapow, and it's now gone ahead and done those. Now ignore the weird texture that I'm seeing here. I'm not too sure why it glitches out like that. I think if I go back to this, does it show properly? No. Okay, that's how it's meant to look. Is you have different colors representing the different chunks. So that looks a bit more normal. Anyway, let's go back into this. And what you can see has happened now is it's created in this outliner. You can see that it's created all of these sub meshes out of it, right? What's interesting you can do is you can, if you hold Shift and use Q and E, you can kind of explode it out and it separates the parts, so you can actually see what the parts look like. This is more useful when there's more parts than just the 10 that I've got here. Good evening to you, Artifacts. Hope you're doing good. There's also I think you can do a Control W and S. Can't remember. Oh no, that duplicated, didn't it? Hold on. Let me go in my scene. Have I got 2 of them now? Yeah, let's get rid of that. Is it Shift W and S? Yes, I think that's what it is. Yeah, so what this does, this Shift W and S will change you between your layers. So if you think about this, this is made up of one solid piece. That's the root of it. And then the next step would be splitting it down. So if I just do Shift S, splitting it down into these 10 pieces. And then what we can do then is add another layer. So for each one of these, we want to split them down into more layers. So let's try and figure out how to do that, shall we? So I think what we can do is we can select all of them. And there's a way in here where you can auto cluster. I think this is going to be the one. Yeah, so if we click on auto, we'll keep it as bounding box. I'm not 100% of the difference between all of these. And what this is going to say is like how many extra ones do we want to add? So if we make this, let's say 25. Let's see how that happens. So at the moment we've just got 10 in here. Let's go ahead and, does it preview it? I don't think you do get a little preview of how it would look. No. Okay, so we're just going to have to add cluster. Auto cluster. I don't think it worked. Nope. I've done this before and it didn't work and then it crashed shortly afterwards. Always promising, isn't it? And then I restarted it and it worked, but I may have done something wrong here. Let's just try and move things around a little bit. See if anything happens. Maybe we have to select all of it. I'm not too sure. No, still hasn't. Oh, maybe do you have to open and close it again? No. Oh, do I have to go on all layers first? I don't know. Then let's go select all. Then let's go auto cluster. No, it makes it look like something's happening. Are we getting anything in our log, I wonder? Doesn't look like at the moment. Yes, you are correct there, Artifact. So this is Chaos is their new physics system. This is just one element of it, is where you can automatically fracture up meshes or a collection of them. Although it's still experimental, and the fact I'm in Unreal Engine 5 makes it more experimental. But yeah, it's really handy. I think artists will probably still want some more control than just using these tools, but it's still nice. And it might be suitable for like cool things for like game jams and that, or someone who's wearing all hats who isn't like a 3D author and they just want to quickly work with these things. So yeah, I'm having issues at the moment with this part of the process where it's not really letting me split it up more again. Enforce cluster connectivity. I haven't ticked that. Okay, let's go for a smaller number and see what happens, shall we? See if, okay. Why did that work but 25 didn't? Okay, and also all this is done is just split up. Has he given us another layer? Right, okay, so we have this layer. Then we have these big chunks, and then within those, it's just done the exact same chunks, hasn't it? Yeah, something's gone wrong here, I feel. I don't feel, well, actually, I mean, if we go and select all, so we can Shift W up to all, and then let's try the expanding out. No, I'm still only seeing 10 pieces in here. So I feel that it didn't work. But that's why we're doing it today, is to figure it out. Having fracturing in the engine smooths out the content flow for a lot of pre-made assets too. And he bought downloaded out. Yes, completely correct. Yeah, that's a thought. So I tell you what, shall we try a new one? Because I feel that this has gone wrong for some reason. Well, what you can also do, okay, let's try and fix it. Let's see if we can figure out how to fix it. So we're on layer 3. Can we select? If I do this and then do siblings, no? I mean, this doesn't... Okay, it feels like... It's created sub ones, right? But each sub one only has one. That's the problem. Okay, I think that is the problem that we've had here. Are we able to add more? I don't know if there's a way, once you've done it, can I change what level 2 is? Okay, we can try and do this. If we select all and we do a thing called flatten. No? Level up? Uh-oh, it's crashing. Maybe. Oh, crikey, what's happened? Okay, we've just got one. We've gone back up to the start. Yeah, you've pointed out a good example of where you may want the actual control. You are there. Right, let's try this again. So we want to go ahead and we want to do a fracture of this. Oh, maybe I didn't click on one of these. Was that the step I was missing, maybe? Okay, is there... Whoa, hang on. What the levels are there? Okay. What is going on? Okay. Level 1. See, this is tricky because if I was to like delete these, I think these are the ones with nothing. These are just like... All right, we broke it. Everything's fine because you can't undo it. Oh, no, we could undo it. We could. Magic. Okay, I'm a bit confused what I'm looking at right now. Can we just do like flatten? Okay, this is what we wanted. We've got all of these parts now. And what we want to do, we've selected uniform. Now we're going to go into auto and we want to split each one of these into 25 new pieces. Auto cluster. Damn it! I thought that would work. Uniform, select all, auto. Yeah, when you go auto, it unselects that. I mean, are we meant to like fracture again, I wonder? I guess you could individually do it, right? So I could individually click on this, let's say this chunk here, right? I can individually click on this and say, hey, I want this to split into like 5 chunks. And then I go fracture. And that does that, right? So that's reasonable. But I think there was meant to be a way to do it all in one. But we'll just go through and... Can you do multiple, I wonder? So if we click on all of these... Yeah, that clustering tool, and maybe I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but we're going to just do it like that. So we've fractured them out. So now let's go and have a look. If we go and to our root, we have our root here. Layer 1 is that. Layer 2 is that. Yeah, okay. So if we're on all and now we do shift, you can see it breaking up into these different parts, right? Cool. Let's go ahead and split this up as well. So we'll split this just into 3 pieces. Fracture that. As for this bottom bit, looks like it's fractured already, doesn't it? Yeah. It's pretty, there's one bit that's quite big still, but... Oh no, it looks like they have been split. That's not so bad. Okay. Do you know K-Os is what they called the little robot in their demo for this, for Chaos. Anyway, okay, so the cool thing about this, disregarding everything else, as soon as you make this static mesh into one of these geometric collections, it instantly kind of switches on the physics for it, right? So if we get our character over here, let's face them towards this. If we press play, ooh, okay, we can see there's something happening with the physics. It probably doesn't help that this is on top of it. But let's press play. Oh, okay. So it's managed to topple over somehow. We're going to take a bit of a little look at why that is happening right now. So we can move all of this up as well if we want, and then we could watch it fall and then smash into pieces. Now, it looks really like floaty, and you'll see bits will just, sometimes they won't even settle. There'll be bits moving still. Look at these. Okay, so we're going to learn a little bit about how this works and how we can improve on that as well. But what's interesting about it then is, say that we want to... can we just go back to this mode now? So there's our pillar over here. But we could, if we wanted to, do it in a different way where we bring in multiple of these meshes together. So let's try and do this. Let's try and do a whole kind of tower bit, right? Oh, is the root of it? Oh dear. Okay, let's bring that in. Let's go ahead and duplicate. Let's put on a little bit of snap on my grid, shall I? 100 will do nice. Pow, 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 pow. Then let's go ahead and whack this in spot over here. So we want one there and then one over here as well. And we'll chuck this one across. And then we're just going to take both of these down a notch as well. So this time we're going to... Oh, it needs to... Let's just press end on it. That'll do. Okay, so they've landed nicely on top of it. So instead of just doing it on the one, we can click on all of these this time. And we can make the same sort of group out of all of them in one go. So let's try that. So we click on a fracture thing. And we say, right, we want to make a new one out of this. So this, let's call this a geometry collection archway. No, let's. I guess this really doesn't matter, but I'm caring. Okay, pillar archway. We're going to call this. Create that. So at the moment, like before, I haven't fractured it up much, but I think if I drop this, yeah. Okay, so you can see it's turned it into like physics reacting things already, right? Which is quite cool. All right, so. I am, thank you, Uno Maestro. About time I got some recognition. So now we have all of these. You can see this time, because we use different meshes, it's automatically split it up into different levels already. Brill. Okay, so what we want to do then for each one of these, let's see if this auto cluster thing works this time for us, shall we? We're going to go auto, and we want each one of these to split into 25. Didn't work. I don't know what's happening with the auto cluster, so we're going to stop using that. And we're just going to go ahead and use the uniform. See, this seems like it's breaking them up on the whole, if I do it that way. Which isn't the worst thing. Or is it just 3 per 1? Let's put this on 20. Yeah, to me this looks like it's breaking it up 20 pieces over the whole thing. Which might be fine. So let's go ahead and fracture that. Let's see that. Okay. So we've done that. That's the bigger pieces. Then for each one of those, we can go ahead and fracture them into smaller pieces again. So let's just go 50 and then press fracture. Okay, so what we should have now then is we should have multiple layers of fracturing. So Shift W through these. So here's the base root here, all in one. Then we go one layer down. We have the different components. We go one layer down. We then have this split up into these different parts, and we go one more layer down, I think. Let me just double check. Yeah, and you can see it's split into even more parts. And we can see what that would look like if we exploded it. You can see all those different chunks of it. Okay, so let's see how that falls. Okay, great. It all falls apart. How wonderful. Looks very clunky though, and that's what we're going to work on now, is to try and look at the things that we touch to stop that from behaving in that way. So let's go. The selected material on this is really balking out for me. I'm wondering if we can just go on a different material to stop this from balking. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway. So now that we've got that collection, let's go ahead and go into that folder. So, and let's save these as well. We might get a crash soon, so you never know. We can open this as an individual asset. And in here, you have some settings that you then may want to go ahead and change. Zetimus, welcome. How you doing? And hello there, Rainbow Kappa. Nice to see you as well. Danithius, Danulisis. I can't even say the names. I played Hades. I should have an idea of some of these names, but I'm still rubbish at this. Dandronicus. That makes it sound like a ship. All right. So what settings do we have in here? So what's interesting is each one of these chunks that I was showing to you earlier. I'm not in the right mode to show you this. each one of these chunks, they have collision, and the collision is based off of this box collision. You can change it to sphere, but let's have a little look at the moment and see how this falls. So let's just drop it a little close. We'll put it towards the back wall a bit. We'll get our character facing it a little bit better. Right, and we'll come back a bit so it fits on the screen nicely. So let's press play. Okay, so what we're looking at is the gap between things when they collide. You can see these chunks. None of them are really touching against each other. And you can see when I try and get close to this, I can't go in any of the gaps. Because really what we've got is big squares around these. I'm not sure if show collision would show. No, it doesn't seem to... Doesn't seem to show for us when we do that. We might... I don't know whether... If we did the... Like show collision in here, I don't think it's going to show it at this point, right? I know that's only in viewport, right? You don't get to see it there. Okay, so let's also move this one out of the way because it's a little distracting at the moment. You can just live in the shadows over here, like Rasmus. Okay. APOC, how you doing as well? Nice to see you. The collider meshes are auto-generated. Yes, they are. So when you make a geometric collection, it will automatically make them. There's different ways you can do it. You can use box, you can use sphere. I'm afraid I can't really visualize it. There's probably a way to do it, but I don't properly know. We can try and see if the sphere looks any differently. Oh, crikey, what the... That looked much... I have no idea. I guess it's something to do because it's rounded and it might be sliding or something. They might be all sliding off of each other. But look how they roll now. It's because the collision on them is a sphere, right? It'll hit against this wall still. Padoink. But it's not quite what we want. So there is this extra one down here. This is going to be a little bit more editor complex because it's got to calculate this for you. But level set, how it works is it makes like a voxel grid, if I remember reading this correctly. So it makes a voxel grid and it will split up the shape into and try and recreate it out of little cubes. And you can define a density or a resolution to say like how many voxels you want to represent your shape. Obviously, the higher the resolution, the more costly the collision is. Where is it? Collision particles. Is it that? Or, hang on, let's see what changes. No, I don't get any new options when I do that. I'm trying to remember which one it is. Let me just have a little peep through these, see if any of them stand out. Okay, I'm not sure. For now, we're just going to save and have a look how that changes it. So let's see what happens. So this time, I mean, it's all staying together. And I'll tell you why it's staying together is because they are all the right shape now. And so that before, if you imagine each one of these, once it broke, the initial structure broke, they turned into large squares, which kind of pushed themselves away from each other, right? But this time, I think because they're the right shape, the collision shapes, and we haven't dropped it with enough force or added force, and we're going to have a look at adding force, or something they call, starts with an S, strain. You can apply strain in chaos physics, and that will allow us to like blow chunks out of this. Blow chunks, what a beautiful word. Phrase. But yeah, so let's try and see if we can get this a little higher. See if anything different. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. So one, that looks tons better already, right? This is behaving as you'd expect. It's cylindrical, so it's rolling. I can collide with that. I can stop it. I can push it. And that was... I've broken it even. Look at that. So obviously there's a little to be desired with like how I'm colliding with stuff now. But we'll talk about why it's breaking. So effectively... Uh-oh, am I stuck in it now? All right, there's problem number one. You don't want your players to get stuck in this stuff, but there's ways around this, and we'll have a little chat about those in a bit. Decided to switch to Unreal, says Rainbow. And it is definitely interesting to use, regardless enjoying the Unreal. Yeah, it's definitely a different experience. I had quite a challenging experience with it to begin with, transitioning from Unity to this. But I think Unreal has loads of great things going for it. I wouldn't say, hey, everyone, you need to use Unreal instead of Unity. If I was just casually making games still solo, I would probably use Unity. But as many of you know already, I just want to use the same engine at home and work so I can get better at it. So that's why I use this. So, okay, that's first off, this is a lot better. But remember, it's going to be more computationally intensive. I'm not too sure if this is the thing that... No, it's not this. I know what this is. Okay, the other thing we can play with, I remember this. So you can use mass as a density here. I saw them do this in a video before, right? So if you do this and you give it a big old chunky mass. So let's go 1000. What we're going to get from this now is that it's going to fall and be like heavier. So it should kind of collapse down on itself more and apply more weight to its subcomponents, I think. So let's have a little look how this one looks now. Pow! Alright, that was different. Have a little look at that again. See how it kind of collapses under its own weight? Look how awesome that looks. That pillar just rolling around. I love it. Okay, so we've got that. If we go back to how it was, if we just get rid of this. I think the mass was 1. I'm not too sure. Let's just untick the box and see if that still has an impact. No. Okay, so having it without the tick boxes, it's the mass that seems to be the thing that's impacting this the most. But if we turn that back, you see how it doesn't quite collapse on itself so much. So what's causing the breakages then is an amount of like damage or strain received. And let's have a look at those settings now. So first off, we're opening our asset to go through. I just want to show the collision bit there. Ah, sorry, the resolution is here. This is where the resolution of how many little voxels are going to make up the collision shape. It's like a virtualized collision or something like that. They were saying in some videos I was watching on this. Now, also what you can do is reduce the percentage so that things aren't so huge. So let's take a step back. Let's go back to our box one. Let's have a reminder how that looked. So when we do the box one, look at these. Like they don't really touch each other. When they get kind of close, look at this. This is resting on something, I think. Oh no, it's just a box. Okay, but what you can do is you can reduce how big it is, collision object reduction percentage. So if you reduce it by 50%, these should now fall a little closer to one another. Yes, they do. You can see how like close everything is. It looks also a bit weird. I don't think it looks good, but it's something to be aware of. You can see how I can walk through these now. They have smaller collision boxes on them. So if the player's not interacting with them, that's fine. That would be a lot more computationally cheaper than using this this method here. So if the player's far away from that and not actually going to walk up to it, that might be a perfectly fine way to do it. So you just kind of think in the collision here is going to be one for the player and that if they're close to it. But more importantly, it's going to be for the different pieces as they fall, hitting each other and applying more strain to each other. That's another thing you need to consider. So let's go back. We're going to chuck this back to... I don't know if we have to do mass as density. But they did it before, so I'm going to just do it. I don't like doing things I don't understand, but sometimes you got to. This takes it back to this more like crumbling nicely way. Downside is, you can see it kind of falls a bit weirdly. Like the pillars kind of fall through them, which I didn't quite expect. You got lots of things kind of overlapping here wildly as well. So these bits moving around on the floor, don't worry about these. We're going to talk a little bit about... I know why. We still have this reduction. Okay, that's why. So it was the right size, but smaller. So things were slipping through each other. Let's try this again. There we go. That's what we were expecting. We're back to looking good. Watch out for the pillar. Oh, he's so brave. So, you can do these at runtime. Yes, you definitely can. For the bigger, more complex things, you can do a cool thing where you record it instead. We'll have a little look at a few things, but I will come to that in a bit. Now here, we have some bits still trying to resolve. We're going to have a look at things you can do to stop this wiggling around on the floor as well. So they're all still simulating, and you've got lots of rigid bodies basically interacting with each other still on the floor. So how you deal with this is you can say, like, once it gets to a certain level in the layer, like depth in the level, or once it gets to a certain velocity, you can kind of put the physics to sleep on it, and it'll wake back up if you shoot it, or if you run into it, then it'll wake back up. So that's one thing that you can do to kind of help with that. Less resources. What do you mean by resource? Oh, as in like in guides and tutorials and that. I found the same. I think there's a less reliable kind of, when you Google a problem, you find less out there. Ezekiel, nice to see you as always, good sir. How is the medical hospital-y project thing coming along? Okay, so let's have a look then. I've talked about the things break apart, and we want to look at why they break apart. So if I remember correctly, once we've got one of these in a level, I can click off of this now and just deal with this object in its own right. So we have our materials, and what you'll notice is it generates materials for the inside as well. So even though we only had pillar base, you can see we've got these extra materials in here now, and they're going to be for where the original materials break and fracture, and you can assign new materials so it looks like the inside of the pillar as well. So that's something to be aware of. The medically hospital thing is going good. Going to speak at GTC. Oh, that's excellent. Is it just you talking? Can you make sure you drop on the Discord and let us know when you're doing it? That'd be really exciting to see someone we know doing a talk in GTC. Game's done quick with a C, right? No, the game, the conference it is. It's not games done quick. So this is what I wanted to show you then, is this down here, damage threshold. So if we go into clustering, you can see here that you can set up some rules about how you want the different levels of this geometry collection to behave. So I'm actually going to go back into this so we can see these layers, right? So we got level 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and 3. You can see how many parts make up the different layers as well. We got 1, 4, 22, and 67. So each index here corresponds to this. So this is saying after you get past this level of damage, or this is like force, and this will be applied from physics collisions and like momentum and things hitting against each other based on their masses and things like that. You can set up thresholds for this. So you might want to say, so for the bigger pieces, let's just add enough of these to match up to what we got. We got 4 elements over here, right? So I can't remember if we want to make these go higher each time or lower each time. I think the biggest part would take more friction to break, right? And then it go lower each time. So if we set this as like 500, let's go for 250, 150. And see if this looks any different now. Yes. Okay, so what you'll notice, don't mind that. What you'll notice has happened here, I tell you what, should we do a side by side? So we can see the difference between them. Because I've done this on an instance. So let's just drag this in. Over here. Let's see how it tanks as well, right? Because we've got, what's the total here? We've got approximately 80 per piece. It's not too bad. This is in Unreal Engine 5 early access. I haven't like built from source or anything, so this is the early access version. The Greek Destruction Conference. Well, yes, that too. It's a panel on neurodivergency with 4 friends of mine. CEO of Toadhouse Games and a few. Awesome, lovely. Yeah, you should be hyped. Good on you. I'm glad what you're doing is getting focus and attention. Okay, so yeah, at work I think we're using one of the latest green builds of Unreal Engine 5, but it's from a while ago that. So it's it's unstable, but understandably so, right? Okay, so let's look at how these react differently. So the one on the left just has one damage thing, and the rest of them will just break under any pressure, I think, right? Whereas the one on the right has different layers set up for it. Let's set up the Z component of these to be equal. So what is the Z of this boy? 380. Let's just set this to 400, shall we? And then you're 400 as well. How perfect. All right, let's watch. Did they actually look kind of the same? I mean, it's going to be slightly different because of physics, but I thought they kind of look similar to me, actually. I'm a bit confused why it's still got this selected material on it. This material is balking for me big time. I don't know why it just doesn't look like a normal pillar. Does this one have that same material? It does. What's different about it? Ah, show bone colors. I don't know why that's on, but okay. So they actually do look kind of similar now I've looked at this. Okay, so they are responding the same, even though they have just the one damage threshold. So maybe our damage thresholds are not high enough. I'm not too sure about that. Let's go ahead and try and take these up a little bit. Something like that. I'm not seeing a difference. But I do feel we're probably... So the way that this works then is you're working through these layers, right? And so each layer will only break apart once this much damage is hit. So to test that, let's put this as like 10,000, and I don't think it should break on impact. No, it still does. Okay, how much does it need to be? Let's add another 3 zeros. Always a good way to test. Still. I feel that's not working properly. Okay, no, it is. It's just we need a high number. Crikey. Okay. So at least we're seeing the slight difference there. So it's like every layer has a trigger, correct? Yeah, once it's actually not layer, but you're setting up rules for each layer, but it's actually per unit. So it's not like once to my understanding at least. Let's do an example. Okay, so this bit up here has split now, right? And if that bit breaks, it's not going to like break everything else in that layer up as well. It's just going to break itself into the subcomponents. If we go into this view, I might need to stop it so it doesn't crash. But we can see these different layers in here, right? So right there. Go all levels. Let's show the colors as well. Where's the little option I had to show the colors? Right, this here. So if I click on this, you can see that's part of... Oh, does it not show like part 24? Ooh. Why is it only giving me one fracture layer now? This is confusing. Right, this one has a bunch of layers. Oh, this one does now as well. So there's definitely some glitchy stuff going on here. But my point here is this. Each like group of these has its own parts inside of it. And when that bit 22 gets enough damage, it'll break down into bit 80 and 81. And if 80 has enough damage, it'd break down into its subcomponents if I made some for it. So that's my understanding of how it works. But I am learning this. I've literally only been looking into it the last day or so. Okay, so we can see that initial bit now is a silly amount of damage we have to restrict. I'm wondering if it's based on the... It's probably based on the mass, right? Maybe also should we try and bring these down a little bit? Boats, good to see you. Let's get back into this mode. Let's bring these both down to 100. That might help us a little bit as well. Because if you think how much force they're going to acquire... What level is this floor at? Are they not at 0? Why is that? Why would you do that? Third person template level. Okay. Anyway. Yes, we are at boats. All right, so this is falling from a smaller distance this time. We're going to see if we can reduce this number on this one down significantly. Let's try 1 million. Nope. No, so it still has a lot of force coming from it. And I guess it's from like the weight of these things, maybe. Yeah, not 100%. I guess if you think about it, these things, they're separate at the start, right? It's in 4 chunks. And so when it falls, those chunks are going to be applying pressure immediately. But okay, there we go. I don't want to waste too much time wondering about these numbers here because it's pretty much guesswork we're doing. But the idea is that you can make it so that you can stagger these a little bit, right? So that with these numbers now, let's put them all kind of the same and see what happens, shall we? Okay, so we can see now that that breaks, but the other bits don't break down, right? So let's try and take this down a little bit. So let's just times it by 0.5. Is that going to cause an extra break? No. So I think it's that initial force when it hits the floor that's the big bulk of it. Let's again times this by 0.5. It's half that. No, it's not. No, they're not even falling. What's going on? I think it's just the simulation. They happen to balance sometimes because it's simulated each time. But you can do it, so you can record it and have the same simulation every time as well. Okay, so let's take this to a really small number then. Let's go for 100,000. Small relative. Okay, we're not getting anything with that. Let's go to 1,000. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we're getting that. But can you see these other bits? They're not breaking down into the smaller chunks now, right? Yeah? Okay, so let's go ahead and see. You can tweak these values. So that's what you're trying to do is, if you notice the first one, I don't know if we can see the one that's happening on the left, kind of it all crumbles on itself all very quickly. And what we can try and do is make it so that you have the bigger bits fall a bit more, and then finally when they hit other things, they start to break aside, rather than this kind of compression pressure, making everything just shatter out. So let's make this one break under 500, and this one break under 250. Let's see if we get the smaller chunks now. Yeah, I think we do, and it looks a bit different to me. Sometimes it lands perfectly. I think that like the stars align, right? Because I've constructed it like pretty balanced that it will land. What if I just take that up a little bit? Will it always land, or will the force... Yeah, it'll succumb to the force of it then. Okay, so this is like, if you remember before, I could jump on these things and they would break down. But I'm not too sure if we'll be able to do that now because we've changed the damage up even more. But yeah, okay, so that's the basics thus far, at least. We're going to be looking at a few more things today. Yeah, that felt nicely. I love how sometimes it doesn't. You really imagine it's the same amount? I must be very close to the threshold or something. Or it's just sometimes it distributes the weight so evenly. So a way to test this Oh no, I don't think we can separate them out now. That's a point. I wonder if you can in this mode. Can I go to like my level? Is it level 2? Select all. Oh, it's so jank, this. Yeah, so these, does it let you move them? I don't think it does. No, I can't just switch to transform mode now and move. It's all good, it's all good. Yeah, well, I got a laptop recently and I've just accepted I'll probably just stick to using Unreal Engine 4 on the laptop. It doesn't have a dedicated graphics card, but it does have a good i7 11th gen. So I don't expect miracles out of it, but you're right. Unreal Engine 5 does have a bit more, definitely a bigger footprint. Anyway, okay, so we looked at this. Let's go ahead and put it on the floor when we start instead. This time, I hope it never breaks. Yeah, okay, good. So it's not going to break for us, which is nice. And we're going to have a look at a couple of extra things that we can do now. So the first thing, someone asked earlier about like, would this work for is it like done at runtime or not? So this is a thing you can do to save a performance. So let's go on this one. I need to try and find where it is, so give me some time. There's a bit in here where you set up how you want this to play. This. No. Damn it. There's a bit where you can do like playbacks and stuff, and I'm trying to remember where it is that lets you do that. So Field, I'm gonna have a little peep around because there's like a playback thing. Maybe do you need to be in this mode? Maybe, or do you need to select the? Yeah, no example. Oh, okay. So you can actually draw the debug draw actor. I don't know. Do you maybe just need to give it like a map or a world context object or something? The cost versus loss gain of slow CPUs in development. Well, is this like per like time you lose compiling and stuff, or? You every time computing related to weight per month, 10.5 hours. Okay, sorry, yeah, I'm reading your tweet on the other screen now. Yeah, $100 per hour. I don't agree with your salary ranges, but it's obviously different for different environment companies and regions and all that jazz. But that doesn't really matter, does it? Your point is that you would save money on time. It depends, really, doesn't it? Whether that average computing related wait time per month is correct, I guess, right? But yeah. Less frustration for sure. I do get annoyed when there's like, oh, there's been an engine change. Great, for half hour I can't code. Right, okay, maybe that's where the figure's different. Fair, fair. Yeah, it makes the use of a good CPU or a good argument for use of a CPU. Right, let me try and find uh, a video. I've gone through a few of them recently. Let me try and find the one that I'm looking for. Da, da, da. Hold on, is it this one? Might be this one. Just trying to have a look. There's a bit in the settings that I'm trying to find. Yeah, I think it's by here. So it should be caching underneath the collection. Okay. Oh, did I have that add-on enabled? I'm pretty sure I did, but when it crashed, did it forget that? That could be. No, it is enabled. It is enabled. Okay, cool. So we're looking for a topic called caching. So let's click on this. Where are you, dear cache? You see anything called caching in here? We can search. Okay, desired cache time. Where is that? I wish I could just click on it and then see where it was. Let me just have a look in this video, see if I can find it more. Okay, so it's in the same place we see like simulating. Hello there, Bucksnail. Nice to see you. So to explain for people what I'm looking for, so there's an option you can do where you're essentially going to record the simulation at runtime, and then it saves it to a file. And then you can set that asset to then play that instead. So it's no longer taking your physics tick to calculate all of the way that things should interact and fall. It'll just follow that routine. What's clever about it is you can make the pieces still be in a sleeping state. So if it happens to fall on you, it won't just go through you where it should have gone. It will react to you and bounce off of you or damn it or whatever you want it to do. So there's some coolness with it. I'm just trying to find exactly where this is. So geometry collection instance. Maybe. Right, where's collision? Collision group is here. Initial velocity, physics. Constraints. Hang on, where's this? Are we in physics here? No, it should be in this section here, I expected. But it doesn't look like it's here anymore. I wonder if it's no longer here. I haven't tried it in Unreal Engine 5. The tutorial I looked at was in Unreal Engine 4. But yeah, we're looking for a member called cache parameters. And they do not exist. The conflict, but was there an implication that when there's an engine change, you have to recompile if you get the change? The implication was in Unreal Engine, if someone has made a change to a heavy use file in Engine, then the compile time is significantly increased because so many files use that, it'll end up being a big compile. So in work, if you normally get like latest, you'll pull a few change lists down. They're just in isolated systems. It'll maybe be like a minute to compile. But if someone's done an engine change which touches on one of the base kind of core systems, then everything needs to be recompiled sometimes, and it can take like half hour if it's a big old nasty thing. Yeah, so it looks like it's not here anymore. So unfortunately, I am gonna have to skip that bit, I think, because I cannot find that setting. We can have a little look. Part of me feels it's... Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so all of the different... hold on. So I could change the position of this if I wanted to. You know, we were talking earlier about whether we could change the top bit of that pillar. That's cool. You can actually come in and do that. Yeah, I don't seem to see this. So we're going to look for cache parameters in Unreal Engine 5. See if we have any results when we look up this. So cache parameters, Unreal Engine 5, chaos. Okay, exactly the same as this. Cache simulation feature is being refactored and is disabled in Unreal Engine 5. Okay, we were correct with that assumption. Okay, that's a shame. So to describe how it works for you, you basically have an option to change to record mode. You press play, your game will simulate it and it'll record all of the calculations that it does. Once it's finished simulating and falling, you press stop. It will have created an asset for you, and you can plug that asset in and you can say, right, this particular geometry collection is going to be playing a existing kind of premeditated physics simulation, and that is really, really useful, especially for like big complicated things that the player's not going to get close to, because then we don't have dynamic things impacting it. There's no need for you to do runtime calculations for that sort of stuff, and it looks amazing. And you can have it running really slow. You can have it on a beefiest computer calculating like 10,000 pieces all kind of falling and simulating, but it might run like crap, but it'll do all the calculations, and then when it plays it back, it doesn't need to do all those calculations. So yeah, it's cool, but we can't really show it, which is a shame. So we'll move on from that. So what we do instead then, if we go ahead and save and close this, I guess the next step for us then would be to look at the fields next. So there's two things that we can do. Like if we have this on the floor, you can see it doesn't move, and we want to find a way to make this fall over. And at the moment, my character is not heavy enough to smash this over. I mean, we could just put something heavy up above it, right? So we could go into our we could add one of these on top of it. Do this. Will it fall on top of it? There you go. You can do that to smash it. That's fine. However, that's not really what we want to be working on. So we're going to move this back over here. What we want to do is work out how we can impact the way that these things fall as well. So you can make it so like these bits, for example, can be like the roots of it. So these will stay where they are because they're attached to the floor, and the other bits will fall off of it. That's one thing you can do. We can also apply damage in a certain area. Imagine like a missile hits this corner. We can do like a radial bit of impulse from here to have the kind of the force dislodge the different sections as well. So we're going to try and have a little look at how to do this. It's a bit of a long blueprint if I remember correctly. So I am going to look at a reference while doing this. Okay, so let's start with an anchor field. Let me just go ahead, and I don't like how big. Can I not change the size? Surely I can change the size of... First off, let's go into this mode so I have a bit more space. Surely I can change the zoom size of this. No? Thumbnail size. Yeah, I really didn't like it that big. How you doing, Merlin? Okay, so we want to. Yeah, we're going to make a field. That's what we were. So we'll make a new folder just to keep these in because we're going to do a few of them. So I called it field zoo because I got chubby fingers. Let's try that again. And in the fields, we're going to go ahead and make a new asset. Let's make, is it under physics field system? That's the one. We're going to just call this field. I don't know if there's a right kind of preset, pre kind of suffix for it. No, prefix. So I get confused which one is which. Anyway. Uh-oh. Why is it not opening that for me? Or is it open and I just can't see it for some odd reason? No, I definitely cannot see that. Alright, well, we're going to take a little resave and reopen the editor break. Right, what is it thinking I've changed here? The selected material. No. Let's not save those. There's some weird things going on with those. Alright, let's try and relaunch, shall we? You're not doing too bad. Chilling a bit before heading to bed. Thought I'd use my last minutes to enjoy a dance. Well, what a fine choice you've made, good sir. We're having a little look at chaos, which is the new physics system. Oh, I need to just launch this. Yeah, new physics system in an Unreal. But it's still experimental, but it also handles the destruction of things by fracturing up existing meshes and handling the efficient means of having it kind of fall and everything collide with each other to look realistic as it falls. Chaos, indeed, that's the spirit. Right, what did I call this project? Was it chaos? Chaos testing, there we go. Do you want, I'm just going to grab a drink while we're waiting for it to load. It won't be a sec. Okay, we're back. Hi. All right, so let's try and open up this file this time. Oh, why is it not working? Have I created the wrong type of thing, maybe? Let's go and have a look if I've gone ahead and done this in the right way. Field system. Make that. Oh, okay. So you've got to right click and you've got to make a blueprint from it, I think. Or something to that effect. So we'll drag one of these in. And then we can do this. Convert this actor into a reusable blueprint class. This is so weird. I guess you just do create. You got to make a base type for it first. Perhaps. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Field system actor. I guess that is the base class for it. So I guess this will just be BP. Well, we'll just call it this again. No, to be honest, I'd like to stick to the same naming criteria. Thanks for the follow, by the way. We'll call on Peakstone. So let's save this. Okay, that was a bit of an odd one, but there we go. We got this. So we now have ourselves an actor. And the purpose of this is we want to basically put a volume in. Now let's describe what's going to happen before we try and do this. So we want to put a volume in. So imagine we just drag a box around here. And that box is going to say any of the chunks of this. Well, this one's easier to look at. Let's say we do a box around here. Let's say any of the chunks around that within this area, where the center of their mass is within this box, we want them to no longer be dynamic. Dynamic meaning having physics calculations simulated on them, right? Instead, we want them to be static. So we're basically saying this chunk just doesn't move. We want to have it as an anchor point for how this kind of geometry is anchored to the level. So that's what we're doing, and we do it in two ways. First off, we make this cube or whatever shape we want to say everything within this we don't want to move. Then we also need to add an extra layer, which was a bit confusing when I first learned about it, which was a culling volume. And the culling volume is to basically say, but do nothing else to everything else. So the way to think about this is, if you imagine we're going to set its property to be static instead of dynamic. What we're saying is we don't want to go through every other physics body in the scene and say, oh, but you're dynamic, because that's going to take computational time to kind of run over that, and you're not changing anything, you're just keeping it at the same value really, but it still iterates over them. So if you use a culling object, I can't remember what they call properly, but if you use a thing to cull it, it basically doesn't bother considering anything outside of the cube. Which makes it run better. So it's a little bit weird, but we'll try and follow along some examples that I looked up beforehand, and we'll see if we can get it to work. I've not done it before yet. Did I see a notification but no sound? Yes, there is no sound, sorry, because I had music on. So that I'm not allowed to play music on stream. However, you can look at the wonderful art for this album. It's a fox and a deer by the looks of it. Okay, gorgeous that is, huh? Anyway, how do I like Unreal Engine 5 so far? It's fine. I like what's changed. It's pretty unstable in quite a few ways, but I mean that's the point of it. It's early access, right? So I can't complain. But yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I'm going to need to use Unreal Engine 5 on my next project in work, I think. Potentially, at least. Anyway, we're doing some prototyping in Unreal Engine 5. So I kind of got to just get over it and get into it a bit, you know? Right. Oh, so we're about to make this anchor. I described what we're doing, and now we're going to have a little look. So first thing, we want this to happen before the simulation starts. So that's why we're going to do this in the construction script. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a few members to this. So if I remember correctly, let's have a look how it's been done in an example I've looked at previously. Okay, yeah, so we're starting off in this position. We're going to add in, first off, a cube that we're going to use as a visualizer. This is how they've done it before anyway. I'm sure there's different ways you could do it. But we're adding a cube. That's one thing we're going to do. So I might actually just call this visualization cube to make it a bit clear what we're doing. I only tried quickly for an hour, and I really like the content browser changes in Lumen, but didn't do much more with it. Well, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What, you a programmer or a artist or everything? I know there's more roles in game dev than just those two. Sorry. Yeah, I actually did the same when it came out. I tried it for a bit, but as I'm a coder, I'm not great at like setting up levels and that, so I felt a little bit like limited in what I knew how to do and play around with. A bit of everything. The many hats. Cool. Okay, so we're going to add in 3 extra things there. So first off, we're going to do a box fall off. It's meant to be a box fall off. Why didn't that show up? There you go. So this is going to be our box that we are wanting to, anything within the box, we want to change the physics state to be static, right? That's the step 1. Then we have a culling field. This is the second thing I mentioned, where I was saying that we want it to then not bother changing anything else that isn't in the cube. And then the final thing we want is a weird thing. I don't know why we can't just use an enum for this, but the two examples I've seen have done this as a uniform integer. We just need to represent that the type of what do you call it? The physics enum to represent the object physics state. We need to just have something to represent that. So I think we can try and pull up the example actually. So Unreal Engine Chaos Live Tutorial, I think it was called. Not this one. The actual one. This one. This is where I remember. And so it was a couple of years ago, so things have changed, but we can have a little peep. You're heading off to bed. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Nice one. Thank you very much, Merlin. Nice to see you. Thanks for popping by, man. Let me try and find where about we did it. I think it might be here. Yeah, so they're going to do a field system now. So let's have a little look at this. If you want to look at the video yourself, it's here in chat. The quality of this is terrible at the moment. Let's get this a little bit higher so we can actually read. Right, okay, so we, I know you can't hear this, don't sweat about it. So we are going to go into this. We want to get hold of our field system component as well. We're going to be doing something with that. So first thing he does is to reset the field system. Then we add a field command. So let's go ahead and do this. I'll just whack this over on my second screen, and then I'll get working through this now. Oh, not that. Reset field. Oh, they don't have that anymore, so we're just gonna skip that one step. Oh man, are they? Okay. Remember I said it was 2 years ago? They've changed it. So I'm gonna have a look in the comments and see if anyone says what it's changed to now. Can we search the comments? I think you can you? I'm not sure if it works like that. We want to search for, what was the name of the function? Add field command. No. Okay. Let's go and have a look at, I'll be able to find some more example. Bear with me. We'll get through this. So it is add field command, I think, but right. See if it looks the same. So this looks the same. Maybe they just renamed it construction field rather than add field command. All right, we're just going to go with this instead. I'm going to trust that it's the same thing because it looks pretty similar. So we're going to, no, that's not very solid reason to go with it, but we're going to go with it. Okay, so next steps then. So from the cube that we've got, the visualization cube, we want to get its transform because we're going to use that in order to control where we actually create this field. So if we get the world to transform from this cube, that's fine. And then on our fall off, we call a function called set field. No, what's it called now? Set box fall off. Is it this one? That looks about right. Okay, we're going to pass in the transform to this. Let's see what else we're doing here. Bear with me, chat. Okay. Okay, so this is why we actually can't just do it as an enum, because this is actually not an enum. We use it to set an enum. So if we drag this off, you'll see that we call something called set uniform integer, and we need to give it an integer which represents the enum that we're kind of, well, that is going to represent the enum. So we can go ahead and make a variable from this. So if we go to variables, I guess it can probably be done in here. And this is going to be of type, let's just call this our object or state type, I guess. Enum. I think it's called object state type. That's the one. Okay, and we want to set a default for this to static because they're the things that we want to be setting. So if we grab this and then we can convert it to an integer. I never know, do we do 64-bit or normal? I don't know. I tell you what, let's just drag it straight in. That'll do it for me. No! No! Why didn't it do it for me? Alright, let's just do what they do in the video. Pow, like that. Okay, and what we can do with that then is in this field node that we had up here, we're basically saying what do we want to apply to these, I guess. So we're going to go ahead and we can plug that into there like so. I know this is all a bit confusing, but that's why I'm doing it, to try and make this process a little less weird and to think about what I'm doing. So let's now get our culling field. Set box. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so what we want to do is get our culling field. Where did I drop it? Over here. And from this, you can call something called set culling field, like so. And you need to pass into it the result of this box, right? Because that's what we're using as a culling field. So we want to say everything that is outside of this box, we want to cull. That's the way that we're thinking about this now. So it won't include anything that's outside of the box. So that's the invert of saying include everything that's in the box. And then we can pass that in, I think, to our... Okay, so the input field, so instead of, we plug this into here, and then we plug this into here. I'm a bit confused how this field node works. I guess in this point, it was purely just saying everything that... Change it on everything, but I guess this does the same sort of thing. I'm not 100%. A little bit confusing. So we're not choosing any of the fall-offs because we want it to be everything in it rather than just around that area. Okay, sorry, I was trying to follow what was going on here. Okay, so this looks like all of the code that we need for it. Let's run through what we've got again. So first off, we have ourselves a cube. The cube is used as a means to make a shape that we're going to use to define the area that we want to anchor. And we're passing that in that shape. We're just using the transform. We're not actually using the size of it, which is odd, but I guess when you pass in... Yeah, I don't know if it's just it happens to be 1 by 1. Because we're using a cube of 1 for this, like a 1 by 1 cube, that it just happens to marry up. It could be that. Because at the moment I can't see how we're setting the size of the cube. But we're giving it the location at least. And we're then saying, right, we want to cull anything that is outside of that box that we've just defined. And then also we are then going to apply to it. We're going to set a uniform integer. It's a bit of a weird, yeah, I don't properly understand how it knows what that is applying to the physics thing, but oh, I guess it would be up here. Physics type field none. Is that what they had in their video? I wonder. You have a little peep. No, right, okay, that's how it knows. You change this to the dynamic state. Dynamic state, there we go. That makes more sense to me now. So it's passing in this value, and that value will be used to set this dynamic state. We need to also enable the field. I don't know why that's not ticked by default. Okay, makes a little more sense. I'm glad we actually looked through it instead of just trying it blindly and hoping that it just worked. Okay, cool. So we get in these. Compile, save. Right, now, next step then is we actually want to add one of these to our world. So let's save this. Let's grab one of these in. We can get rid of this one. We can give it a material. I mean, you can. It's suggested before. People are like, oh, you can just give it a transparent one. Is it translucent? Oh, I might need to show engine content. There's some translucent. There you go. Okay, so we got like a semi-opaque red anchor thing now. So the idea of this then is, I think, is if I put this around here, I guess we could we scale this up? I don't know, it feels weird doing it in this way. I'm curious if we were to move both of these up. I meant to select this as well. Oh, I just moved the cube instead of the actual actor. I hate doing that accidentally. It happens quite often actually, when the mesh is not the root component. Okay, so if I do this, does like one bit stay in the air? Yes. Can you see that? I think. What's that bit doing? Oh, it's stuck in the wall. Okay, that's fine. I think that bit. I think we're gonna have another look. Yeah, it's definitely something not moving there, right? But then the weight underneath it is breaking it down into different parts. So let's try and make this box bigger. Let's just scale it up a bit, I guess. So we're going to this. Let's go 4 by 4 by 2. Holy cow. We broke something. Oh, do we need to turn off the collision for this? Oh yeah, that may be something we haven't actually done yet. I think that we need to turn off the collision possibly for this. Because at the moment, generate overlap. No, it doesn't generate hit events. Block all dynamic. I think this needs to be like no collision, I guess, right? And I don't know whether that, I didn't look on the settings how they did this. So let me just on the tutorial. So let me just see if he does something about this. Well, they didn't do that. Oh, how does it work? I wonder. Is it something that maybe they remembered later in the tutorial? Right. Whatevs, let's just try this and see what happens. Okay, well, now it does absolutely nothing. What did I turn off on it? Is it overlap all maybe? If we do that, maybe it needs to generate overlap events for these culling things. Nope. Doesn't seem to have an impact. So what it's meant to do is anything that's in it should be changed to static. I mean, it might be easier to test it higher up. Yeah, we can see that nothing is being kept up there. We can scale it to be a bit bigger on the Y, just so it's definitely covering these. Okay. We can see it's definitely not anchoring these at the moment. So that's not working as intended. Let me go, as it was 2 years ago, let's go and have a look at something a little bit more recent and see if it kind of works the same. Just having a peep. Yeah, that's been set up in the same sort of way. Did I set it at the right one? Hold on. Oh, another thing to consider is the object type. If we just go static, this shouldn't move now, right? Yeah, okay, just making sure that I understood the difference between those. Fine. Okay, that's fine. Let's go back into our blueprint. Did we save the value of this? Changes it to static, yes. And well, I think the idea they're going for with this Zetimus is that you can, yes, it is, there is risk, but once things settle, then you turn it off so that it's not constantly dynamic. But I still, I mean, what you said is still valid for sure. All right, we are coming up to the end of stream as well, so let's see if we can get some of this working. This is the least interesting of the fields. You can do basically like a radial explosion field as well that I was hoping to look at, but it is getting on a bit. So I'm not 100% we're gonna have time to do it, but let's see where we get. Ah, yes, I remember the step that I forgot. Here we go. So you need to associate them together. So this pillar, you need to say, right, do you have anything that you initialize to set things up differently? And I say, yes, I have this. Now look at it. Now look at it. Yes. Okay. So it was working. I just forgot to hook it up. So this is what we call like an initialization field, things that you can set about it beforehand. We've just done a specific example here. So if we were to move this back to how it was, have it at like 4, and we'll move this down to like this foot. I think this means the whole thing doesn't move then. However, let's drop this on top of it, or maybe we can just take this smaller pillar. Is that roughly on top? That'll do, pig. That'll do. Vector fields. I'm not too sure. I don't know what you're asking exactly, if I'm honest with you. Oh, that just landed. That just landed on it without any bother. Is this where the density was? The mass. Oh, for particles. I am not sure. I'm not too sure. It's not something I've... touched on. Okay, that's falling apart. Maybe I am not doing the right thing. I was just interested to see whether that will destroy... Has it been hit? Looks like it's on a bit of a weird jaunty angle. Or maybe... No. It's not. Okay, so until we get this... instead of just testing it in this silly way, should we go and test it the way that it is meant to be tested? So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll try and sneak this in quickly before the end. I think there was one more thing actually to update in this. It may not have been set up properly correctly. Give me just a second. Seeing if there's anything else massively different about this. No. Okay, so let's go back to this and let's find the bit where he starts doing like radial explosion-y bits and how they're set up. Oh, actually. So what he's also showing here is that we can actually connect two things together. I guess we should have a little look at that. So if we wanted this to be part of this, you can change the there's like a collision index or something like that. It's got a cluster group index. I think it was that. Where was it? Cluster group index, that's the boy. Okay, so we go into both of these, and then there should be a cluster group index somewhere here, and we press 1. I believe these now will fall together. Let me just move this out of the way. I guess we don't need that anymore. Yeah, so I know it's difficult to tell exactly, but they're being treated in the same way, and I think that means that should I put this over here, back holding that endpoint in place, I believe that does that not move? Yeah, you can see this isn't moving either, even though it's not physically attached, because it's inheriting this. I'm wondering, does this work the same if I just... Yeah, it does. We tested this earlier, right? If you just test one part of it, it applies to all of it. I guess it's... Yeah, I'm not 100% why, actually, thinking about it. Because the way I see... Oh, I guess at this point it's all one. It's all one part. It's the next level where it's 4 things. That could be what's happening here. Yeah, I think in this one state, it's all one big part. If we go into this, for example, select this. If we go to this level 0, this root level, it's all one big shape, I think. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But getting everyone to agree and work together doesn't always seem the realistic thing that's going to happen. It means people can leave your engine, right? If you all use a nice central lingo. Okay, let's see if I got time to quickly do this, because this stuff is more interesting. And they've already made it. Oh man, yeah, it's pretty beastie this. I don't know if we're going to have time to do this today. We might have to have a look at this next time, because otherwise I'm just going to be exhausted. Yeah, right, I'll call it now. Just, it is 9 o'clock. That's when I plan to finish. And if I start this, it's going to be another 20 minutes. I know it will be. So I'm gonna wrap it up while I'm still in control. It's been nice to have peeps here anyway. Hopefully we've learned a little bit, right? We've gone through setting up how to break up these meshes into different parts, how to set up different layers so that they break into subparts and subparts. We changed the weight of it. We set things so that they relate to one another as well. So we selected 4 different objects and put them as one geometry collection all together, so that they all behave together rather than each individual part on its own, separate. We looked at, you could use this group cluster index to group things together as well, so that they will kind of all belong to the same thing, if you will, even if they're not like physically connected or part of the same geometric collection. We played around with the different collision shapes that you can have on the different parts as they fall. And we just looked at this anchoring, and yeah, well, we'll make a little bit more sense out of anchoring next time, because the idea, I know the end result you get out of this, but I need to think a bit more about what's happening. So the idea is, imagine I could shoot this pillar anywhere, is that it would fall apart, but the clumps related to this bit. So let's just paint the show bone colors. Let's get this mode off. That is not the bone colors. Oh, is it because we're just showing... Oh, yeah, it's a bit jank this. I need to show all levels. Then we need to come out of this. Okay. So this means that, I mean, it might be better on this side. It might look a bit more sensible to have it over on this side where we've got bigger parts. So that's basically saying any of these bits are going to stay there. Even if you're like shooting out the pillar, it's only when this snaps and you're no longer attached to this thing that has the anchor that it can start to fall. So you could use this at like at the top and the bottom of key parts of your structures. Because realistically, if this was attached to a floor, if someone shot the bottom, it wouldn't like fly off, right? Because there's so much friction from the floor that's not moving. Whereas if you shot out a middle bit, it would break and then like this bit would collapse on top of it. And then this stays at the bottom and it bounces off of it. So it will look nice and cool when we get it sorted. Just needs a little bit more thinking and a bit